Welcome to the Never Been Promoted podcast and YouTube channel. I'm on a mission to help you cut the time to all the things that are holding you back so you can unleash your entrepreneur. That's the first time I was running that new intro. I'd like to thank Hannah from my team for making it. Well done, Hannah. I had never actually made it to the end because my ADD took over with 8 seconds 11 and I never finished it. I'm glad I let it go the whole way. That was pretty cool. Welcome to the Never Been Promoted YouTube channel and podcast for those listening. Hi, I'm Thomas Helfrich, your host. We're on a mission here at Never Been Promoted to help you get better at entrepreneurship. Now, we're doing that through the stories of other entrepreneurs, through some good videos, good content. You know, we want you to unleash your entrepreneurs. See, I believe the world needs more entrepreneurs. In particular, I'll be selfish to my own country. I think the U.S. does in particular. It's an advantage for any country. So I live in the U.S. Why not? Not that I have anything against other countries, but why not? Go USA, right? Part of that journey is this idea that you get kind of held back on things as you make this transition to become an entrepreneur. You get held back. And we want you to cut the tie to those things. So the metaphor of the tie being cut is truly, it is, you know, and ironically, it is harder to cut a tie than it looks. But in real life, it is too. You know, you have all these excuses, these fears, these senses of entitlement, or maybe these people in your life that kind of hold you back. You gotta be able to cut the stuff so you can get on to the next thing. Now we're with Mel Reyes today. Mel is a fantastic coach, super energy, and we're going to talk about living the best life, the mindset of how to do that. And he's got some great advice and some we'll get into the weeds with that a bit. Hey, and by the way, this is your first time here. Please stick around, check it out. There's a few things I always ask people to do is subscribe to the YouTube channel at neverbeenpromoted.com. And if you're listening to this, a solid review on the podcast really helps the community and what we're trying to do. So if you can, just take a moment and, give us a 5-star review. It'd be really helpful. I appreciate it. If you'd like to come on the show, you got to visit me at linkedin.com. So linkedin.com/n/Thomas Helfrich. You can come on that and DM me. I will actually reply and see if you'd be a good guest. And if you don't like the show or give some feedback, I'll take that mail as well. I'm open to criticism. Enough shameless plugs. Let's bring in Mel here to the studio. Mr. Mel Reyes, how are you?
I am fantastic. I'm still laughing at your intro and your little animations, your little animated self, sir.
I just filmed those like literally yesterday, and so they had sent me the updated intro, and the team does some for instantly relevant my company. See that shameless plug? They do some really cool stuff, and then our video editor or production lead, I should say, she's beyond an editor. She came up with like 30 of those, and I'm like, she inserted them. I hadn't even seen the end of it. It's like, good enough, and I just uploaded it, and I didn't realize how good it was. So, thank you, appreciate it.
Great intro.
Mel, let's start with, before we get into your world here a little bit. Let's start with an icebreaker. And I asked this question a lot, but I think this would be a good one for you. If you were to be arrested, and only thing your friends and family heard was that you're arrested, what would they assume you did?
Wow. Did not expect this. There's shit. You're killing me, Smalls. What I could publicly say is it would probably be for streaking. What I would privately say would be something much more nefarious and devastating, but which has nothing to do with clothes. But yes, it would probably be for outrageous public nuisance type of pieces.
Nothing ends you with like a registered offender list, but
no.
Hopefully not.
I mean,
actually, I know the street.
It'll probably be at night. It won't be near schools, right? I'll be mindful of things like that. Yes.
I wonder. I'm not that but I've heard these horror stories of people like doing like whatever skinny dipping, and they get registered as an offender, and I'm like, that's dumb. Can we like, or peeing in the woods and you're like 190 feet from a school and you're like, well, if you hadn't walked up here and asked me what I was
Yeah.
doing, you would never know I was peeing in the woods. That's just dumb. Anyway, so
Yeah, it's a bit rough. I mean,
that seems
some
like a
folks,
California thing, to be honest with you.
it, it, it is what it is, but I have to say, some folks have ulterior motives and try to play it off like it
Hmm.
wasn't. And that to me, no, squash them, lock them up. I don't have time for that bullshit. Some
Right.
folks are just caught in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Right.
But I agree. Yeah.
Well, hey, so today we're going to dive into this. I want you to talk about your company, and what you're doing. Like, so give me like the 60-second pitch on that and back in a bit to kind of how you got to launching it. I think I want to hear that kind of the backdrop story, because I think understanding what you're doing for the world today and understand how you got there was like the first step to kind of having the conversation of mindset and living your best life.
Right. Well, first I'll start off by I don't typically do a lot of these, but when you reached out and I saw what you did, I saw the name, I saw the cut, the tie, I saw the mindset piece, all I'm like, oh hell yes. I'm like, first of all,
Yeah.
yes, right? And then we got on a call and it was like, oh hell yes.
It's fun. I mean,
Right.
we had a phone
So
call.
I'll try not to give the standard bullshit pitch that I normally do. But here's the thing: I've spent the last over 30 years in IT and cybersecurity. I've been through, and I tell everybody else through the dramas and traumas of managing teams, global, local, etc. And in the last decade, I've been doing a lot of more introspective work, growth, and everything else, all the wonderful buzzwords you hear. In the last 5 years, I decided to take that and put it into action. So going from corporate world, startup world, and everything else, and saying, where do I want to be physically? Where do I want to be career-wise? What does the rest of my future look like? And then I just started to take massive action. And the planning, all of the other pieces, we can get into the details. At the end of last year, I decided to finally execute on the last of this next step in my journey. Called it quests. We could talk about that. And I said, let me just take the last 30 years of my experience, what I've gone through, what I could have used help on, and flip the script on whether it's IT, cybersecurity, companies, CFOs, and try to help them to see the things that I've been able to do by making sure you're focused, you've got the right mindset, you can build out your teams, you've got a cultural a component, psychological safety, motivational drive, all of these other pieces that are ignored by leaders who don't know that they're impacting or being impacted by their environment. So
Right.
individuals, companies, etc. I am literally living my best life right now because I'm seeing so many wonderful things happening with the folks that I'm working with, and I'm I'm sending out an energy and I'm receiving an energy. And we can talk about all those kind of things all day long. I'm having fun.
It's fun when you get to, the spot in entrepreneurship where, I enjoy doing what I do all day. And I think I've labeled it as work, but I've stopped labeling it as work because I'm doing something, but it's something I love to do. And it's some days are like, it's like anything else. Like, I love to go golfing or fishing, but some days I just don't feel like doing it. That's kind of like sometimes you get in that with funk, even like, I'll see I have 5 podcasts and I'm like, oh, today's gonna be exhausting. And it's not that you don't want to do it, but you kind of have to like, then you get into it and you're like, you love it. Right. And so
Yep.
that doesn't mean it's not work, but it's not in the sense of I'm here because I'm being told I have to be here.
Right.
And probably the last piece is when you can finally replace what you used to make as a W-2 income. That's like the last part. I haven't gotten to that, but I also had a good career, though I've never been promoted. You work towards that and you start chipping away at, okay, that's good. We're adding a little bit more. Okay, we've covered a mortgage. We've got a little extra to go do this.
Yep.
And if you take those kind of journey steps, not expecting everything at once, which is that sense of entitlement, your mindset completely changes. Like, I'm doing it. I'm moving forward. And it's not that you don't have hard days or good days. But in your own journey, right, to get to there, I think what you're just, I appreciate your mindset that I love what I'm doing. And because I'm right in the middle of that too. Is what was though not the calling so much is the trigger. What sets you on the path? What was the like, not doing that shit again to get you going on your own?
So I'm gonna backtrack into this. Um, Born in Puerto Rico, raised in New York, Brooklyn, Bronx, Rockland County, Westchester County. Um, it was ingrained in me. It was exposed to me. everything that I wanted didn't exist. It was what I needed. I needed to pay rent. I needed to go to school. I needed to get a degree. I needed this. I needed. It was ingrained in cultural and in every aspect of everything. So what became important was when I was doing the introspective, it was like, what do I really want? What do I base my values on? What do I base everything else on? So I started to do that work and I was like, oh, I see what I'm missing now. The want. What do I want? Where do I want to be? What do I want in experience or the day to day? And as soon as I started to realize that, I was like, oh, I'm not getting what I want. I'm giving and giving and giving and giving and giving, but I'm not getting what I want. So first mindset piece that I started to get through was the self-care and what I call going from selfless to selfish, right? So that I can start taking care of myself. Once I started to realize that once I start to take care of myself, it actually helped me take care of everybody else. I said, what are my core values? My core values are the things that were most impactful for me as I was growing up to even now. And I drilled it down to two words: educate and elevate. So that's why I love this podcast. Never been promoted. Yep, never been promoted. Right. I had
You
a
got to
kid
join
in
the
my
club. You don't
training.
have to fog
I
up the
had I
windows on the outside. You could
literally.
you
That's why I
got
was
I'm
like,
in.
the universe connected us for a reason, right? I've never been promoted. I cut the tie. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly the mindset that everybody should be in, but it's not easy to get there. So when I say I drilled it down to two words, it took me years to drill it down to two words, right? So educate. I never had training paid by any company that I've ever worked for, whether it was full time or contractor. I've never been promoted. Right. And even with the little nudges that I was able to get or the guidance, it still was not a clear path. Never had an ally, an advocate, anyone, an advisor, and a mentor. Even though I've asked a few people, right, to see if they would help, and then go off into the sunset. So I said, well, that's kind of shitty, right? Because, and I've posted this before. I'm a little Puerto Rican curly haired kid wearing a mustard yellow turtleneck sweater who's clueless to the world, no exposure, and that kid manifested through as an adult. Right, I'm clueless. I'm this. I'm that, and so all this introspective work and said, well, how do I fix that? I need to take care of myself. I need to learn. I need to invest time in
Right.
reading, and the elevate, educate, and elevate is I needed to elevate myself to a point where I recognize my skills, unshackled myself from the beliefs and from the I can't do and I'm not good enough and how the hell am I going to do that? So I use really powerful words like yet. I don't know how to do that yet. I can't afford that yet. Right. And yet is a big word I use in presentations. And most people are like, yeah, you know what? You're right. Well, guess what? All of this is now what I'm on a mission for. So I've got my Fellowship of Digital Guardians nonprofit. I've got my ETC, Elite Technical Concierge, all these pieces. And everything I do from coaching to training is how do I help educate and elevate?
Yep.
That's it. Right. So, but it's a journey and I had questions in between and everything else to get to this. It's still not there. So I think I figured out what I want to do when I grow up. But I'm receiving everything every day and it is what it is. I've got a North Star. I've got a big audacious goal. And we'll figure out if I get there this year, next year. I just enjoy the way, the trip along the way.
You said a good point there of you don't know if you're going to get there, and you never do because anything can happen. You have all the dreams. Probably means you have your health. If you don't have your health, you got but one dream, right? So I'm not sure who said that. I put it in my book. It's the man with his health has 1,000 dreams. The man without has only but one. And it's one of the reasons I no longer drink anymore. I just I started working out is because yeah, that stuff's fun, but in last 10 years of life, I'm not going to have a whole lot going on. And what I've seen in even my own parents and things like that, is they've lost things to do. Like my dad just worked and then he couldn't anymore. And just the not cognitive decline, but the motivation to be just, and you see this. So it's like, if you don't have health and you're in pain or whatever. No, anyway, so my point is take care of yourself now with the idea that, hey, you got to have your best life. Here's a perspective from a mindset. And this is something that just came up this weekend. I just went to a 30-year high school reunion. So I'm 48. And you show up there, and one thing's for sure, I look better than a lot of my I look less aged, and I don't dye my hair even. So I got lucky. I kept hair. You know what I'm talking about on your face. And okay. So here's here was the perspective. 30 30
It'll,
years
it'll
ago,
come back. And that's gonna come back to bite you. You're gonna shrivel
I'll
up
be
when you
bald.
see
Don't
it.
worry. I'm not worried. I know I'm going to be, but for today, I'm so 30 years ago, I was 18, graduating high school. The whole world's ahead of you. And it occurred to me that I think I got at least 30 good years left to 78. I'm in high school again. I'm in time zero. So if I was 18 again, what would I do? Well, let me just treat it like that. Let me have the mindset that I have 30 years now experience and I'm a new 18. And I don't know exactly what that means, only to say that let me look back at the stuff I didn't do well and the stuff that I enjoyed to do and did do well. And how am I going to do the last 30? And,
Right.
um, and I think a lot of people lose that perspective. At any given time, you have so much experience to do things differently. You just got to go do things differently if you expect change. If you don't and you complain and it's this and I can't, he won't let me, she doesn't let me, I can't because of this. Okay. Don't expect anything different though. I've been criticized for saying this before, but and because everyone's circumstances are different, but your success or failure for us, first of all, how you define it. And second, if it's going to happen is 100% up to you. And if you don't think that way, you cannot expect to match the definition of success or failure.
Amen. And I was going to curse, but I'm going to try to keep it clean. A blank M. A to the M. Right.
Are you trying to say the F word?
Maybe.
We can't. We shouldn't. We could, because I definitely say it freely all the time. But
So,
we'll keep it. I don't want YouTube flagging me.
as you were talking about your high school reunion, I didn't go to mine. Oh, it's okay. I got over it. Right. As you were talking about high school reunion, and then the now showing up to be the 18-year-old, one piece kept coming up in my head. Like, I want to do what I didn't do, right? What I was too shy to do, right? Like at that reunion, if I would have gone to my reunion, that would have been on fire. Like, it would have been on fire. I would have been draping across, the whole gymnasium, off a rope. I would have gone wild because I didn't do that in high school, right? I was kind of a little edgy, little this, little that. But on top of that, you know what else I would do? I would live with no no regrets, no regrets. I would go back to that high school, a sweetheart that I never really, told her I liked her. I would go back to somebody else. I would do all of the things that I didn't do because she probably doesn't like me. They probably don't do this. We're not going to hang out. And like you just said, the woulda, shoulda, couldas, the negative pieces. I'm like, oh no, f you, no, it's on. And that's why, like, you take that 18-year-old, now you bring it to now. That's where I live. No regrets, no
Yeah.
regrets. If I'm at a cliff and it's in the water and everybody else is like, you should do it, I'm like, you know what, you're right. Fuck it, I'm going to jump. I'm going to
Or
jump in the
differently,
water.
if you were like, I jumped off because everyone's like, Sid, you should do it. And you're like, I don't want to do it. Like, for example, I probably would have been the person to do it then. Now I'm like, I have no interest of going on that roller coaster. And like literally like a roller coaster or jumping off of something
Yeah,
or
yeah,
being on a motorcycle. Or I'm like, I don't care. I played racquetball like really well in high school.
right.
You cannot make fun of me at all. And it affected me. I played racquetball. I was like, you can make fun of me. I played racquetball, and I own that, and I did really well with that. I'm like, but you cannot make fun of a human who accepts that they're like a nationally ranked racquetball player. You can't make fun of
You
that
can,
person.
you
Like
can, you
they
can.
are,
I mean,
they
come on,
are,
let's
they
be
are that
real. Let's be real.
they're that
You
person
know,
though, by the way, that says it is what it is, and you're like, I can't even mess with that. Like it is what it is.
yeah,
Oh God,
yeah.
that person's
No, I love
dangerous.
that. I love that. And
That's like honey badger dangerous
if
right
I
there.
if I had a do-over on 18, woof, with what I know now, oh, unstoppable,
Yep.
unstoppable. And I was an athlete. I was in track. I was in wrestling.
Yeah.
Then ended up having to flip over to work so that I can buy things. We can talk about all those things later. But I would be at it would be incredible if I knew what I knew now. But I did make that switch when I got into college. Once I realized that there was a completely different world that I'd never been exposed to, never been exposed to. I didn't know anyone who went to college. I didn't know what college even really meant. And once I got there, oh hell, Mel came to the table, and I met some incredibly beautiful people. And Trish and a bunch of other great friends, like almost day one, and I'm still friends with them because I talk about like gangbusters, no regrets. I was the Blutarski of my generation. Like I showed the hell up in college. And that's how I've tried to live my life since, right? Being a little safe, not to try to kill myself and, break guitars and do all other kind of stuff.
Only if it
But
makes sense. Only if it adds
but
value to the night.
even then, now I'm at like a next level, and it is what I call my theme from last year of planning this is next level shit. Like, oh, I'm able to do this, and now I have the mindset that's mostly clear to be able. I'm like, oh yeah, no, it's on intergalactic world domination.
So okay, so take me through it. So let's say I'm an entrepreneur and I'm listening to this. It's any point, like, timeless kind of advice. Take me through where they are, where many people are, because those are people who are achieving. Let's leave them kind of. I'm going to leave you behind or leave you
Yep,
ahead, and let us
yep,
catch up. So there's a bunch of us out there that are in some version or another wanting mode, in an imposter mode, in some type of not advancing mode.
right.
Help take me
So
through that, wherever it
I
is.
love
Take me through your kind of techniques to move through that.
I love this. So everyone is very different. I get where everybody is in life, where they are financially, where they are, but so I I I broke it down after having probably like thousands of calls with coaching, which I consider coaching paid, mentoring not paid. Coaching and mentoring says I must have thousands in the last 5 to 10 years. My teams and everything else, and I was like, what do I keep repeating? So I broke it down, and a few weeks ago, I actually pushed it out there for free on my site, etc.limited. Uh, it's Coach Mel's 5 V's. First one is views, then you got values, vulnerability, voice, and vision. And each one of those has subcategories and little questions that you can ask yourself. This could be a self-assessment that you can do. You can take yourself. I'm gonna do a little a quick piece here for you. Views, perception versus reality, right? Focus on what you think about yourself, but then figure out from your colleagues, from experts, and everybody else. Oh, did my video go crazy?
It's paused, but we can hear you. So we're gonna
Yeah.
go with that
So
lovely image of
yeah.
you, kind of looking like
Yep. There we go.
you
We're
just
back.
you just saw.
Uh,
You're back. All right.
Hold on. No, let me stop
For
my
those
cam and
listening,
I'll start
we're,
over. But yeah, so here's so perception versus reality, right? So first thing is focus on what you think about yourself and they get feedback from your colleagues and everybody else on what the reality check is. Limiting beliefs, right? Unshackle yourself from the woulda, shoulda, coulda, can't, don't, blah, blah, blah. Literally try to find the triggers when you find yourself saying this kind of shit. Measure, right? Stop measuring yourself against other people because of their success, everything else. Measure against where you were to where you are, the gap in the gain, and I'll talk about that
I
again.
definitely
That's
want to
just
come back to
view,
that topic,
right?
but
That's just
please
view.
keep
Then
going
you've
because
got
that's a huge piece.
value, right? Values, right? Beliefs. What's important to you? What are the aspects? Know your worth. What's the experience that you've had that you can bring to the table? Again, where you went, where you were to where you are now, not I'm not as good as Thomas and he's got a podcast and he's got this. No, it's where you were to where you are and then where do you want to be? Identify and then and the most things that people can't identify is what they want, right? So how do you do that? Identify what you don't want first. Everybody can go into a negative headspace very quickly. So identify what you don't want, what you don't want to do, what you don't want, where you don't want to live, and then flip it into now I know what I don't want. Now I can just say what I do want. That's really important on the values. Why do you need to change your view? Because that's the first foundational piece. Why do you need to know your values? Because that's the next level. Then I talk about vulnerability, right? One, with whomever you are, you need to build trust. You need to be genuine. You need to be authentic. And the last piece of this is you need to be able to ask for help. Right. So that means the machismo, the egos, the alpha male, all these other pieces, like I can do it on my own. That needs to be melted away or chipped away. That's the vulnerability piece. So your teams, your company, your family, everything else, you have to shout through the rafters. I need help with this. I need to do this. Voice. Who are you? Stop living somebody else's bleached executive presence, life, or anything else. Like show up the way you want to. That's why when we got on a call, I was like, you were on fire. I'm like, between your tie, between everything else, I'm like, yes, I need to be on
I
here.
often think we should record the off-air stuff. It'd be more entertaining.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, a lot of edits, a lot of edits.
I don't know. There
Be
should be
yourself.
that. Like those are actually the
Share,
real content.
and that's the thing. Share your thoughts, right? When you're authentic and you know your values and you know this baseline piece, guess what? You get to develop your vision. That's the last one. What's your North Star? Find your tribe, share your vision. If they don't agree with it, walk away, find somebody else. That tribe, then the last piece of it, set the dates and just take massive action to whatever the hell all of this is guiding to. That's what I work with people. And some people are in really good third layer, fourth layer of the V, whatever it is, and they're working on the rest. I help people get out of their headspace. I help people see. I see people for what they don't see themselves, and then I show them the mirror that I see, right? Because they look in the mirror and they're like, well, I do that. I'm like, well, the mirror I'm looking at is different. This is what I see,
Yeah.
and this is where I see you, because what you just said, and I help them reframe, which is going to be the topic of a 3-book series that's coming out, as well as a book that I'm writing on reframing, finding the triggers, and being able to say, oh shit, stop comparing myself, because guess what happens? All of a sudden, when you start to realize what you've done to where you want to be, like, oh, it's not that far away. I just
Yeah.
need to make a few, sometimes it's you have to move to a whole new coast, a whole new country, or leave scenarios that are not benefiting you, right?
100. I
So,
mean,
whether it's
we
work
should we'll dive
relationships,
into that here in a second
otherwise,
for sure.
right?
Um,
So,
and
yeah,
there's a bigger problem that you're solving there too. So I want to come back to something first. Def- Definition of success, and I've said this so many times on shows, but I'm going to repeat it as often as possible. Your definition of success should not be, in my opinion, the Alex Hormozis, Gary V's, these people who've exited for tens and hundreds of millions of dollars. That is a unicorn thing that happens. And if those people have done it because truthfully they have a gift, they had some timing, and not everyone's gonna be able to do that because that's not how the world works, not even close. But if you can replace what you could have made working for somebody else from a financial metric only, you are killing it.
yeah,
Just know that if you can
yep,
make your own income source, it's going to be more reliable because no one can fire you. It's just yourself. You're killing it. So when you start comparing to others, compare to where you were or what you could have been, but also then remove if that's the only metric that matters to you. But then if you're like, well, I don't feel like I work all day, but I make 20, 30% what I made, but guess what? That's a win. You're also killing it because now you have headspace to be happy 24 hours a day, assuming your dreams are okay. Anyway,
right.
so that's a fantastic thing there. So the last piece you talked about there are those the 5 E's. I think it was so
Yep,
total. I lost
yep.
count after 3. That's what you help solve. By the way, is my next thing is the entrepreneurial ADD. I don't think people realize what you just described solves the entrepreneurial ADD because when I don't know how to be vulnerable because I feel threatened and I put up this wall and I actually don't know what the hell I'm doing, imposter syndrome. And you become vulnerable and you find your own voice and you find your own vision. You then don't have to focus on 700,000 things that seem interesting because this thing actually is going to accomplish the V's you just described, and you'll be comfortable within your own skin for success and for where you're going and not caring if people are judging you or not, because you're just judging yourself based on a realistic set of things to make yourself happier. So you actually are solving for entrepreneurial ADD, and people are like, how do you get rid of that? It's because of some of the things you just described are just not boxed or they're not written down.
Right, right. Um, nothing, nothing is going to change unless you're purposeful about putting times towards what you want to change. Nothing. I actually had this. Somebody wrote it down, or I wrote it down because they said it earlier. It was like, but I go into the mindset for myself. No one's gonna effing save you. Get off your ass and get something done towards your North Star, right? What's that North Star? I want to be doing this, being able to go to Greece, being able to do this. That's your North Star. Perfect. What did you do today and every day towards that North Star? If you haven't, don't talk to me. If you're ready, talk to me, right? Because as an entrepreneur, you've got a vision, you've got a passion, and you're like, oh, what should I do? How should I do this? Guess what? First thing you need to do is make sure you've calibrated on, is this the most genuine piece of where I want to put my time, my efforts, my life, and everything else? Do I want to leave the tie behind, right? Am I ready for this, right? Pull the tribe in. Tell people you want to do this. Hold yourself accountable by telling people you want to do this, and they'll make the connections. Put it out into the universe. who you are, what you want to do. And if it comes back, it comes back. If you start to get alignment with the right groups, the right people, then you know, and you can start validating and adjusting. And then you create that one North Star. Woo! Woo! Thomas, when you start getting validation that that's a great idea, or you would be great at that, then you start to refine it. Hell yes. Show up and then put your energy towards it, put a plan, start getting funding, start partnering up and start doing it. And to me, I cannot tell you how much fun I've been having over the last 5 years trying to build this out. Woo. And I think you muted, or I can't hear you.
In my old days, you'd have to drink talking on mute. I have to keep going off camera because, like a 5-year-old, I poke myself in the eye at the beginning of this thing, and I'm trying to battle. Every time I'm putting you on solo, I'm crying in the background, going, "What did I do?"
I know. I can bring out the emotions in people. It's okay,
I
Thomas,
mean,
for you to be
it's
vulnerable and say
allergies,
that you're
damn it! I
crying,
said
but I'm
allergies,
motivating you. No,
or
no,
did
I'm
I
not
say I
crying.
poke
You're
myself?
crying.
Whatever it is, I'm not crying because of the topic. Stephen Share, I think I'm pronouncing that correct. Thanks for saying this is great. I love it. If you have any questions for Mel or myself, please jump in, guys. Hiru Diribab. Diriba, I might have. If I did that bad, dude, I'm sorry. Just correct me and yell at me later. But guys, thank you for the participation there. And if you have any questions, by all means, please.
That's my
show it.
tribe right there. Steven's my tribe. He knows.
He's
Yeah.
a CyberX guy, I think. Cyber dude. So,
Yeah.
but so okay. The last 5 years, right, have been awesome. But what I find sometimes when you find you're awesome in your life, my life, the people that knew you, that it comes back to sometimes this statement that men get married expecting their wives not to change, and the wives expect to change their husbands. And sometimes the change you have is a freeing to something else. And not in particular to your issue, but I see this in a lot of entrepreneurs where your vulnerability piece is key here in the communication with a spouse or a partner. And if you haven't communicated how you're feeling, where you need to go to be happy in your life, and the other person doesn't align to that, the relationships become one of the biggest ties that you either need to cut or mend. And you have to, and sometimes they don't line up. And I'm not trying to give you specifics for anybody out there, but I run into this with launch entrepreneurs who are, man, my wife and I fought so much, but once we kind of worked it out. Others, like, we had to end it. Another was, oh my God, I found my best partner in my life. I could never find love before until I found myself. Talk to me just generally though, about relationships, because that's the one thing that's going to absolutely ruin your life is by not managing the things that are closest to you.
I love this. I love this very specifically because I've worked with so many people that don't consider this as being, why am I not successful at my job? Why can't I manage my teams? Why am I not advancing? And they never consider most of what I do is professional. But guess what? I'd be an idiot to ignore the personal one, the cultural pieces of how you're raised, but also the relationships you're in. So we start off our life with certain beliefs and values, right? We don't call them that. We just know that, right? We want family, we want this, we want this, we want this. And you end up finding someone that gives you that. All right. Well, guess what? As you grow, as you experience different pieces, as you expose to the
I mean,
world, those values start to pivot and change, right? If you would have asked me 20 years ago, Mel, you're going to be leading efforts to educate and elevate in a nonprofit and volunteering and go, I would have been like, what the hell are you talking about? That's nowhere near in scope in my head.
I think
Right?
as soon as you start realizing mortality, shit changes.
Right. Right. What is my
That is
legacy
the
going to
biggest
be?
divider of, oh
That's
wow,
it right there.
I'm
That's the
halfway through
third
life.
layer.
What have I done?
Right.
If you can't
I'll talk
talk
about
through
the
that,
three layers. Yeah.
everything falls
Yeah.
apart. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think that's actually the
Oh,
key is the midlife thing, and it hits is like, I'm gonna die soon. It's when a friend dies,
you
when
get to
friends get
die soon.
cancer,
It's
all
if
that.
I die, when I die, how do I want to be remembered? Have I done what I can for myself, for my family, and for
Yeah.
what I want to do? Again, going from selfless to selfish, right? What is it I want to do? Where are my values? Where am I at? It usually happens in a midlife,
Yeah.
right? Because that's when you've got enough experience and not enough exposure. You've been through the dramas and traumas. But what is really important is to remove yourself and go to a different plane where all of that noise isn't there, and say, if I were to shoot for this North Star, What do I need to pull in? Who do I need to include? Or is it actually anchoring me? Once you come to the real conclusion of I've tried and it doesn't work, this colleague, this company, this partner does not work, you have to accept the fact that if you really want change, it's going to be painful. It could be costly. It's not no one, not everyone's going to agree with it. Not everyone's going to understand. And that's when I say you have to take massive action. You have to make some hard decisions, right? 5.5 years ago, or a little over 5 years ago, when I said we need to move to California from New York, it was not an easy decision. It took me years of stress and pain and everything else to get to a conclusion to say that's where I see in very clear view where my journey is taking me so that I can build a better life for my family. And
Yeah.
guess what? Best decision I made so far. I don't know where I'll be tomorrow or next week or the week after. So to me, when you and I mean to and then by the way, to execute it on July 2020, because I planned it in 2019. And when I talk about taking massive action, I take
Yeah.
massive action, right? July 2020, I wrote it down, I set the goals, how much I wanted to make, where I wanted to be, the exact location, the exact date, everything else. I was ahead of schedule, right? Right. Taking massive action. So when I don't preach this shit, I live this shit.
Yeah. No, you and well, so hey, and I think we're expanding on how that impacts a relationship. That if you haven't communicated beyond, let's say, the selfish nature of why you want to do that, why you think it benefits everybody and getting their inputs, people may go along the ride that don't have your tenacity, your ability to do that. That's going to cause stress. The other
Yep.
piece is when you have relationships and you blame everyone else, that's an excuse. I've been through it with my wife, where I was becoming resentful at times, and it was my own inability to do what she's asking, which was be vulnerable, be a present. And
Right.
then that, because I'm like, I got, and but once you've cracked through, you realize, man, if that had ended, really, I would still be in the exact same spot. I would, so just realize that I think that vulnerability piece of your V's is the hardest one. And I'll say at
That's
least
why
for
it's in the
men,
middle.
it is by
That's why
far
it's in
the
the middle.
realistically hardest one
Yep.
to honestly. Now, the little step you'll make in it will feel like the furthest, and you'll still know that you have canyons at the crossed. And
Oh
if you,
yeah.
the more you can cross it, though, I think the value of what you can make from a vision standpoint, from a,
Right.
that
Voice.
actually becomes real,
Right.
and your
Right.
connections to others become realer. And it's, I hate the vulnerability piece. I still hate it, but I know I have to do it. But it
Thomas,
makes my podcast better because I will
we live in
admit
a
things.
world where in high school we're told to man up. We live in a world where it's like,
I'm
work
still
the
told to man up
struggle,
by my
it's the
kids.
grit,
Man up,
it's the
Dad.
grind, it's a this, whether you're a man or a woman, right? Level up, grit, grind, like shut up and do it, right? That's kind of how I coach, don't get me wrong. But I also do it from a point of I care, right? And this is what drove me effing crazy during COVID, right? Like all these books on EQ started to come out. And I was like, wait, I have to buy a book to learn how to care for my teams and for my, I'm like, EQ is great. And yes, some people don't have it because they haven't been through the experience. They don't have the vulnerability. They don't see other people for who they are. They see them for as a resource or as an asset and everything else, which is
Right.
why you probably want to cut the tie, right? But to me, it's about caring. And if you care to change and you care about your family and you care about your health, guess what? You're going to have to kind of, let the shields down, right? And tell someone, hey, Thomas, I'm having a really shitty day. I've only had 2 cups of coffee, and by now I'd have 4. So you're not getting the true full Mel, right? That's vulnerable, right? I'm having a shitty day, right? Because then we can get into a conversation. Walk me through that. Well, blah, 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 right? Vulnerable could be like, I can't make mortgage. How am I going to do this? You have to say that to someone. You have to, and guess what? When you start to pull in the tribe that sees you, that helps you, that then you start to say, you know what? I can be more vulnerable. I
Yeah,
can tell
no doubt.
people, like I say on when I go live streaming, this is why I have a box of freaking tissues next to me because I don't know what kind of story is going to come out. I don't know if I'm going to cry right now, right? And I know I'm making you cry. I know. It's okay, Thomas.
I
We're
keep one
good.
just in
We're good.
case I poke myself in the eye again.
Right. But this is the thing, right? Yes, we're men and we're women and we have passions. We have this. I'm like, at the end of the day, those 5 V's came through decades of experience for me, right? You can't do anything unless you go through that step. And that's why vulnerability is right in the middle, right? Once you know your views of yourself, once you understand your values, then you have to say, who do I share that with? How do I open up? What can I say to someone to say, I'm not in a happy place. This is my vision of where I want to be and my beliefs. How do I get there? Right. And
Yep.
then you create your own voice. Now, oh, now I'm vulnerable. I'm getting feedback. I've got really great people who can support me. How do I want to come across? What's my voice? What's my mission? Right. Whatever you want to call it. What's my destiny? What's my quest? What's my journey? Whatever you want to call it. Then that's when you take it from voice to vision. Go for it. Just freaking go for it.
And just conscious of time here a little bit too. Uh, how, who and where are they in their life? Or as an maybe as an organization, because you come in an organization, you could help so much as well. So tell me kind of like the ideal customer that you want to contact you and where they are in their journey, and then drop kind of how that you want them to get there.
Yeah. So for me, it's really important. I'd love to boil the ocean and help everyone on the planet, right? I can create a program and I can do all these things. But what I found was in a lot of the organizations that I've seen, not necessarily been in, no, I don't want to downplay or kill anybody else's dreams. But a lot of organizations I've seen, especially in cybersecurity and high pressure jobs, first responder, incident response, military and veterans. I can try to address everyone, but I'm like, I tell you what, how about I address the leadership that may or may not be have the visibility into the impact that it's having on their teams. So to me, it is about trying to target senior or mid-level executives and managers of the companies that are experiencing um, the lack of psychological safety, churn with their employees, a lack of engagement, and then to try to help them identify from a leadership standpoint, from a team leveling up standpoint, and from the skills building standpoint, either technical, how do you do data traceability pieces better? How do you get the tools in to help your teams so that they don't have to focus on the day to day as much, but also how to level up the practitioners who became leaders, right? And may not know how to manage teams. Also, how to restructure your teams so that you can fill the skills gaps so that you're not putting the taxing components on them. And to really kind of shatter the view of all of the different assessments that are out there, right? One of the things that I did was I launched a review of the Leadership Circle 360 assessment, right? Of me and my leadership skills. Why? Because it's an industry standard, and I want to align with it. But guess what? Every assessment you can take is phenomenal, gives you insights. But the only thing that's going to help you is continued learning, adjusting, growth, and training after that. And if you don't have the right team that's really brass tacks and really looking at how do you actually make real world change, not the high level, these are the best things for an organization pieces, which I love and I appreciate in a lot of major global organizations. We're real people. The pandemic has shown we can work from anywhere. We can do anything. We've got real world problems. You need someone who's going to come in and going to help you address those kind of pieces. So to me, I'm on ETC. My site is etc.com. I run the Fellowship of Digital Guardians, which is fdg.institute, which is a nonprofit. You can find me on LinkedIn. I live stream. I'm going to be at Black Hat next week. I'm going to be at DEF CON next week, at B-Sides next week, all tech and cybersecurity related pieces. We're going to be doing live streaming. I'm going to hit the road for the rest of the year. I'd like to take this opportunity to launch that I will be managing the cyber defense ecosystem efforts on for MSPs, MSSPs. I'm just rolling it out. I'm just
Love it.
this whole year. And by the way, if you follow me, if you connect with me, you can unfollow me because your stream is going to be filled with all kinds of things that I hope can help you.
Awesome. Mel, thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate it. I'm gonna put you in the periwinkle room, which I think that's that color, but there's no snacks in there because I ate them all. But thank you so much for coming on today.
All right. Thank you, Thomas. I will talk to you soon. Stay
All right.
awesome and live your best life, brother.
I love it. Thank you. I'll talk to you in a couple minutes here. Mel, thank you so much for coming on. Anybody who's made it this point in the show, thank you for listening and watching. We have a very clear mission, is to help entrepreneurs get better in entrepreneurship. I want more entrepreneurs in the world. I think believe it'll make you happier and more fulfilled, specifically if you have that bug. Now, that doesn't mean if you work for somewhere it's a bad thing. It just there's a lot of people who feel like they could do something more and be something different. That's who I'm speaking to here. If this was your first time, guys, thank you. Check out youtube.com at Never Been Promoted. If you're listening or you like podcasts, they're on Apple, Spotify. And if you have a moment, do a 5-star review. It would be very helpful. But until we meet again, you get out there and go unleash your entrepreneur. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Until next time, talk to you soon.